The real estate industry is the world's single largest contributor to climate change. At Fifth Wall, we're on a mission to help the industry eradicate its carbon emissions and build to zero.
What are the benefits of living in a tiny home, both for the homeowner, but also for society?
I mean, for me, it was super obvious. Is just avoiding that financial trap that leaves people kind of treading water and unable to kind of pursue their dreams or even take a job that's in line with the degree that they got out of college. Many people find themselves just kind of taking the first job they can get just to support their life. And watching those dreams slip away. So, there's two different ways that you can kind of empower yourself in this world. And one is to get a better job that gives you more money so that then you can have more free time to pursue into what you want. And the other is just to pare down on the expenses of your life and translate that into freedom. So, in essence, for me, that's what it was. I kind of feel like I'm a pretty decent ambassador for the movement because of that, because it really was a necessary thing in my life to pursue skiing. And then skiing ended up actually becoming a reality in my life and becoming, this thing that I did as an occupation that took me around the world. And I was able to have all these amazing experiences. And it was a direct result, because I didn't come from a rich family. It was a direct result of me kind of taking a hard look at like my life and thinking about what I can do to just make sure that I'm able to do what it is that I'm passionate about, And at that time it was skiing. My passions have grown since then.
And so obviously it does, right, provide that financial freedom, obviously for no other reason than the cost and the maintenance is lower. But, have there been any discussions around just like from a quality of life standpoint for the individual, how do you look at that? Like, how do you quantify that? Because personally, I don't own a tiny home, and I think a lot about how complex my not tiny home is constantly. And I don't know how that benefits me.
Well, I mean, it's easy. It's about small home, big life, and if you have to quantify it in one way, that's the easy way to look at it. It's about like, okay, well, what's the trade-off when we're focused on these large homes and we're focused on paying on those large homes, all that time that we're putting into the job that may or may not be fulfilling to earn that income to just pay for that space. That's a real trade-off to something that's actually much more important in the long run, which is your time in this life, especially in the years that you have energy that you're really enjoying and you want to go explore. So, don't wait until you're too old to actually be able to go adventure and travel and go to climb mountains and things to pare down on, to stop working, right? Which is the game plan of so many people. And the conclusion of many older Americans is, yeah, do it now, because it's so easy for you to push that off and think you're going to adventure and then just get in that trap and start running on the treadmill. So yeah, I think that there's another third piece of it, which is that people aren't necessarily aware. Like a lot of people are environmentalist in their minds, but they lack the information and the awareness of how much their homes and that space and the size of their home really does contribute to their own personal carbon footprint. So, part of what I do is try to share that awareness, because I do think that there's been a disproportionate conversation within my lifetime when it comes to energy efficiency and fossil fuels towards transportation, whereas housing and real estate obviously represents a very large piece of it, and it just doesn't seem like it's being treated with the same amount of urgency.
Absolutely. That's, the transportation industry seems to, get all the mind share when it comes to decarbonization. But in reality, the real estate industry is far more contributive. The real estate industry broadly defined, inclusive of the full life cycle of real estate assets, are far more consumptive of energy and resources than all of transportation. And so, when you think about a tiny home, it's intuitively going to consume less materials, less energy on an operating basis. But what are some of the non-intuitive ways that having a tiny home, leads to a more sustainable lifestyle for the homeowner?
The average tiny home uses, on average, compared with the average American home, 7% of the energy. So it's not like tiny homes are just a little more energy efficient. They're a whole lot more energy efficient. And especially because they are newly constructed typically, because they're kind of a new product. They're being done and they're being built with very good thermal envelopes, and the construction techniques are much more representative of what we use in our modern society and residential construction. So there is that aspect, but there's also a whole range of kind of lifestyle transitions that have been kind of proven that people end up going through regardless. I mean, it's simply small things of just not buying as much clothes, not buying as many things because you don't have as big of a closet. You know, each one of those items has a carbon footprint. And it doesn't, if you're just take one person and they stop wearing and buying quite as many clothes and they stop acquiring as many things, that's one thing. But if you actually do that on a broad level and allow at least the people who want to live in a minimalist way to be able to live that way, you are going to have an effect. It's about that numbers. And, you know, that's one of the ironic things about this is that it's like nobody in the tiny home movement is trying to say, hey, everybody needs to live small and like try to shame people. This is so specifically about there are people who do look at their home and want to pare down for all sorts of reasons, economic, environmental. And right now, the way that our rules are set up, we simply can't. And that seems ridiculous in a time when we have absolute housing emergency, a homeless epidemic, and then a climate catastrophe, that we wouldn't be doing anything or everything in our power as a society to enable people, maybe incentivize people to live in smaller spaces. The fact that we have to argue for even legality to be allowed to do it seems insane.